Hello, YouTube followers of ECA Marketing, and welcome. We're joined today with two awesome, two of my favorite people, actually. Joe Spillman, my boss and the president of ECA Marketing, and David McKnight, best-selling author, MDRT top of the table guy, and we just wrapped up another live workshop here with agents from all over the country. And you're teaching them your system on how to, become a mini David McKnight.
Yeah, we want to give them all the tools that they need to become David McKnight after 6 months.
Right. Without
the 7 kids, though. If they want the 7 kids, we can teach them how to do that too.
Yeah, it's a separate session, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. So, I thought I'd bring you on our live stream today just to talk a little bit about some success stories, because I know you've been working with agents for a while. You've got a lot of people that have gone from rags to riches, really, for all practical purposes, even a guy in our hometown here of Minneapolis. So I'd love to hear about, some of the people that you work with.
It's interesting. We every year, I live in Puerto Rico, and every year we have an elite POZ summit for advisors that use our program in Puerto Rico. And last year it was our first time we did it. And we just had a bunch of people that had a chance to tell me how much their life has changed by using our program. And it really comes down to this one thing. What our program does is it gives you a consistent, predictable, sustainable stream of new prospects. And that's really the number one pitfall in our industry is how do you find a predictable, sustainable stream of new prospects that actually fit the profile of what you're looking for in a Power Zero client that end up wanting to do business with you. So what our Power Zero University Workshop program does is it lets you spend 6 hours with the right type of people, where they get to, over the course of the 6 hours, they get to know you, like you, and trust you. So by the time you offer that complimentary strategy session at the end, all of those walls and barriers of distrust have been knocked down. And when they come into your office, they're actually ready to embrace the concept. And so it's really heartwarming and gratifying to see people that maybe were struggling in their careers, or they were good producers, but they just didn't like the roller coaster ride of having to wonder where their next client. They could always close people once they could get in front of it, but they're always wondering where their next client was going to come from. And to see advisors who really have been able to solve the prospecting dilemma, and now they're marrying a consistent marketing program with their native inherent closing skills. And when you put those two things together, it can be very, very powerful.
So a little bit of rocket fuel.
Yeah, let me jump in just real quick. What I really like is you talked about a consistent, predictable flow. And that's what, I've been doing this for 20 years and working with advisors all over the country, thousands of them, and they're up and down roller coaster ride careers, all of them. They make money, they go buy a fancy new car, and then they struggle to find the next prospect to go visit. The one thing I like the best about your program, and every advisor I've talked to about it so far, gives them a path. Not necessarily a path of like how to close every sale, but a path of how they should do their marketing, how you can show them plenty of repeatable events that you've seen other advisors do that you'll show them how to do to get them in front of clients. Now, it costs a little bit of money for marketing. That's actually one of the things I really like about your program too. I don't think we're going to give away the secrets of all the costs on this, but they're very, very minimal compared to what I expected we would see as equates to the kind of volume that you guys are turning in as a group. So it's an amazing path for a producer to get himself on and consistently get in front of consumers, like you said.
I think that the initial expense to be able to set the marketing in motion is negligible compared to what people are seeing their revenue from that initial investment. And the thing that I love, and I've been doing this workshop for 10 years, so I'm not getting up there and speaking from a theoretical position. I'm a top of the table producer. So I'm teaching you exactly what I did to become $1 million producer. And the great thing is, I can get up, most people get up January 1st and they say, where's my next dollar going to come from? I can literally predict what I'm going to make 12 months in advance because I know roughly how many of these workshops I'm going to do. I know roughly what my closing ratio is. And it takes the angst and the anxiety out of the business, knowing in advance what you're going to be making. The roller coaster ride is gone. You're leveling out your income, and you're taking a message, which is a Power Zero message, which is very relevant, which can turn you into that red canary and the yellow canary world and set you apart from the strictly annuity and Social Security workshops we see out there. You can take a workshop like that and be different and have a predictable and sustainable stream of income. And all of a sudden we find advisors that are actually enjoying themselves again. They're not feeling that angst associated with, gosh, here goes the roller coaster ride again, January 1st.
Yeah, they're hoping that next referral comes in. And of course, that's highly unpredictable. Even if you have good strategic partnerships, you might be waiting an unpredictable space in between that next great case. And, that's just not a proactive way to grow your business. It's a way to have some business, but wouldn't you like to have something that fills that gap in where you have that predictable aspect to it? So agents around the country, that you might want to tell a story about, that you don't have to name names or anything, but I'm sure you have people that come to mind that you think, oh, that was a really fun story.
Oh, sure. I have people write me emails all the time that tell me how life-changing their interaction with our program has been. And, we have, I'm thinking of a guy actually right here in Minneapolis that when I first met him, he was, he's feeling pretty good about life. He's making about $100,000 per year. He's now doing extremely well in our program and just doing, I don't want to get into what he's making, but it's literally been life altering for him. And he's
MDRT type.
He's top of the table production. Yeah. So we're just saying, hey, look, put your ego on the shelf. If you do exactly what we tell you to do, you're going to be successful in this program. Like I said, if you've got some native talent, if you've got some closing ability, we plug that into a proven and sustainable system. And that's when the magic starts to happen. And we've just seen it time and time again. And it's just really gratifying seeing people who want to succeed and they're good at the business. They're just missing that program around which they can build a practice. And so it's just being able to get those emails from people saying that it's been life-changing for them is just one of the best part of what I do.
Yeah. Well, and we're starting to see it too with the producers we're just beginning to work with and, seeing how well the marketing is actually getting them in front of qualified prospects. I love the fact that the message actually attracts the right kind of people. So, the problem I see with like Social Security marketing is, that's going to fill a room full of people, but often who's most attracted to that message? Probably people that
need more Social Security.
That need to make their Social Security work pretty well. They got to figure out, how do I get the last penny out of Social Security? Well, that's maybe not our ideal prospect. I'd much rather talk to somebody who's trying to figure out how to pay less taxes.
Yes.
And that's, I think, inherent in the messaging that you do attract more of the right kind of people.
Well, for 5 years, I did a workshop that was it was a third party that created the workshop. And it was all about sort of investing 101. And we had very sophisticated and savvy investors that would come in. They say, Dave, it was a good class, but it just seemed a little too basic for me. And so what we did is we recreated our university workshop. We built it around the strategies in The Power of Zero. So if you like the book, The Power of Zero, you like the strategies that are in there, you're going to love this workshop because it's basically 6 hours over 2 nights of Power of Zero, red meat type stuff here. And so what we find is that when people, if you feel like you're having success with the Power of Zero book, you're really going to have success with this workshop because the workshop brings the strategies and principles within the book to life over a 6-hour class. So by the time people are done, they're number one, they're absolutely convinced the tax rates in the future are going to be higher than they are today. They're absolutely convinced that life insurance and Roth IRAs are the way to get them to the 0% tax bracket. And they're absolutely convinced that they can't do it on their own, that they need someone to hold their hand, to shepherd them through this whole process. And trust me, there are a lot of pitfalls that you can fall into along the way if you don't have a seasoned Power Zero trained advisor that can help you through that whole process.
So since your last visit here, I believe you've actually released another book that we haven't talked about yet before. Can you tell us a little bit about that book?
Yeah. So I wrote a book called The Volatility Shield. Okay. How to vanquish the 4% rule and maximize your retirement income. That's the subtitle. And the premise of the book, first of all, the book is, it's about the same length as Power of Zero. I like to keep my books about 100 pages because I find that people won't even pick it up if they don't feel like there's a realistic expectation that they can finish it. But this book is a little bit different because it's actually a story. It's like a mini novel, a novella. And it has a plot. It has characters. It has a cool M. Night Shyamalan twist ending at the end. Okay. And it's very heartwarming. But couched within the story is a financial principle that is absolutely indispensable for most of our clients and prospects who are younger than 50. And it basically shows you how owning a permanent life insurance policy can help you take more money out of your retirement assets. We're familiar with the 4% rule. 4% rule says if you got $1 million, the most you can ever take out in any given year is 4% or 40,000. Why? Because 2 or 3 out of every 10 years are going to be down years. And if you're required to take money out of that $1 million portfolio during the down years, it's going to send it into this sequence of return risk. It's going to send it into a death spiral from which it's very difficult to recover if you're taking out more than 4%. Basically, what we found is, and this is what the book illustrates, is if you can build up 3 to 5 years worth of lifestyle expenses inside a permanent life insurance policy by the time you retire, when the market goes down, instead of taking money out of your stock market portfolio, take it out of your permanent life insurance policy. Give your stock market portfolio a chance to recover. And what you'll find is that if you follow that course, you're no longer required to only take out 4%. You can take out 8, 10, in some cases 12% out of the stock market portfolio, because you're not kicking your portfolio while it's down. You're not taking money out while it's down, so it can recover faster, which means you can take more money out and still have a realistic expectation that that money is going to last through life expectancy. So it's a great book. It's heartwarming. 5 out of every 10 guys that read it cry. I'm not ashamed to say that. They're really in touch with their inner tenderness, or whatever you want to call it. But the point is, it's a heartwarming story. It's a really fast read, and it's going to really open your eyes to an application of permanent life insurance that maybe you weren't previously aware of.
So it's funny you said that 5 out of 6 guys that read the book.
5 out of 10.
5 out of 10. I'm sorry. So I wanted to share my story with how I got introduced to you originally. I think it was about 5 years ago. Your book showed up on my desk, and I typically like to read one business-related book and one for fun book at a time. And I normally struggle to get through the business-related books because they're so boring. And I'm not just saying this because you're here. I literally took yours, read it cover to cover, and I cried during it because of all taxes I know I'm going to have to pay. So I don't know what the percentages of the Power of Zero book.
But really, I mean, 2 out of 10, and you were one of them.
The taxes there are brutal. And I got to tell you that I talked to Jeff Thompson about this, and I think it was about 5 years ago when I first talked about it. And he had a colleague that knew of you. And fast forward now till today, I couldn't be happier that we have this relationship together. So just a quick plug. Thank you for that so much. One other plug I wanted to say is your movie that you put out, The Tax Train Is Coming. I hadn't seen that until just a couple months ago, where you told us about that. And I watched that and just edge of my seat. Now I'm in the financial services, so maybe not everyone's on the edge of their seat, but I certainly was. It's an absolute must watch for everyone that's even thinking about the Power Zero. Watch that because it's absolutely wonderful. I think that if you get them to open the front page of the book, they'll read the whole thing like I did because it's so good.
And we have been finding that, by the way. I just wanted to let you know we have had exactly that scenario with agents who've given it to clients, said read this chapter, and they ended up reading the whole book. So,
and then I think the next step naturally is for the producers out there that are just kind of kicking the tires or thinking about looking at this program. Read the book. It's how much does the book cost for them to get?
If you get it in bulk, it's $12.35 each.
There you go. Cheap book, and we'll pay for it for you guys, producers, if you're interested in coming on board with ECA for this. So no problem there. The movie, I think you can rent on YouTube for like $4, right? One-time rental. Do that as a minimum because you'll enjoy them whether you want to join the system or not. I believe, of course, I'm encouraging you to do this. I believe that after you do that, you'll want to come out to a boot camp, and then you'll want to talk to one of our marketers because the boot camps do fill up. So you want to make sure you're on board. We're going to continue doing them as many as we can. We're hoping to fill up and have thousands and thousands of these producers trained by you because we're so excited about it. So again, thank you for the relationship. I appreciate it.
And let me just say one thing about the movie. So in 2018, I talked with filmmaker Doug Orchard, who had done some things for me previously. And I said, hey, I think it might be interesting if we made it just a 30-minute short. Anything less than 60 minutes is a short. I said, let's just do a little 30-minute short on the Power of Zero. Maybe we interview a couple of people, make it nice and short. And he thought about it for a week, and he wasn't sure he wanted to do it. And he started talking to people about the national debt and the future of tax rates. And they all said, Doug, this is a movie you absolutely have to make. And so he came back to me and said, Dave, not only do I want to make this movie, I want to make it a full-length documentary. I want to make it a full-length feature film. And you know what? The first couple of weeks, we were all sweating bullets because we couldn't get anybody to sign up for an interview. And then I remember David Walker, former Comptroller General of the federal government. He had helped with Chapter 1 of the Power Zero because that's in part about David Walker.
Sure.
And I called him up, and he was running for governor of Connecticut at the time. I said, hey, look, you helped me with my book a while back. It's done great. Would you mind appearing in our documentary? And he said, yes. So we went to his home in Connecticut and we filmed him. And then once you film David Walker, former Comptroller General of the federal government, the people start, and this is how these movies work. People start jumping on board. We got Larry Kotlikoff, who is the foremost expert on fiscal gap accounting. He referred us to George Shultz, former Secretary of State. And once you get George Shultz, you get anybody.
Right.
So we got Ed Slav, we got Don Blaine, we got Tom Hegna, we got the governor of Utah. We got every major expert on the debt in academia all throughout the country. And they're all looking at the same numbers and they're all singing the same song. They're basically saying, look, there's one congressman we interviewed out of California. He said, hey, look, he's on the Republican Budget Committee, so he knows what he's talking about. He says, if we keep on doing what we're doing and we don't change course in a dramatic way, he says, 8 years from now, we're going to be Venezuela. Most of them believe that tax rates 10 years from now are going to be dramatically higher than they are today. Even in some cases, some of them think double where they are today. So if you have a 401k or an IRA, or you have clients that have 401ks or IRAs, the movie and the book and the whole concept and the paradigm are absolutely germane to everything we're doing right now. Tax rates are on sale. We know the year and the day when they're going to go up, January 1st, 2026. Why not take advantage of this period of historically low tax rates, preemptively pay those taxes, so that by the time tax rates go up for good in 2026, we've done all the heavy lifting and we can be at or near the 0% tax bracket.
I was just going to kind of take the other side of the coin here, because I know you mentioned during the presentation today that you have a detractor, a couple out there, one in particular that lives in your area.
Yeah,
we won't name.
Yeah, he lives in Utah, and I used to live in Utah, and we butt heads all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in any case, so some people have said, oh, well, this is just all fear mongering and, to try to make a sale. I don't see it that way, but how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I actually get that a lot. Some guy on Twitter, even yesterday, guy I respect, who I thought was on my team, he said, I don't believe in this, tax fear mongering. And this other guy who's a doctor who became sort of this financial guru, I went back and forth on this, and I said, look, all of the experts believe that tax rates are going to go up. Why are you different? And he says, because at the end of the day, to be able to pay for Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, we're just going to inflate our way out of the problem. And we're going to go back to 70s, the decade of the 70s style inflation. We're going to be able to just print more money. And number one, money is valuable because it's scarce. You print more of it, becomes less scarce. So all of a sudden we're like Zimbabwe, and it's cost $100 trillion to buy a loaf of bread. But more importantly, what he failed to recognize was that Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are benefits that are paid for in kind. What does that mean? That means that Medicare is something that by law, they're required to pay for your doctor's appointment, for example. Well, a doctor's appointment might cost $100. If inflation doubles or reduces the value of the dollar by half, guess what's going to happen to the cost of that doctor's appointment? It's going to double. So guess what? If you inflate the dollar, the cost of Medicare and Social Security that are all pegged to inflation
will double.
Are going to increase commensurately. Right. So you cannot
get around
print your way out of this problem. So every year that goes by where Congress fails to dramatically scale back these programs means that the fix on the back end is going to be that much more dramatic, that much more draconian. So we are marching into a very, very scary future. But the good news is, for Power of Zero advisors and their clients, they're going to be insulated and protected from all these higher taxes because they have put the right streams of tax-free income in place to get them at or near the 0% tax bracket. I like to joke about it, but it's true. If you're in the 0% tax bracket and tax rates double, 2 times 0 is still 0. That's the power of zero.
Yeah, well, and I think when you watch the documentary or read the book, I mean, if you're not convinced by the facts, I would consider what you're doing really reality-based financial planning. Yeah. Which is looking at this real situation that's coming and that's in progress and it's been decades in the works, unfortunately, and giving somebody a positive future, a positive, proactive way to do something about it, instead of just here's this doom and gloom message to scare somebody. Well, it is a doom and gloom scenario. I don't think that's the message, though. The message is you can do something about it.
And I do like to share this story, and I share it with all my groups. A couple months ago, I had a lady come up after one of my workshops, and she says, "Dave, now I'm in a horrible mood. I'm depressed." And I said, "Well, why are you depressed?" And she says, "Because I've got all my money in the tax deferred bucket, all my money in my IRA." And I said, "Let me see if I got this right. You put money in your IRA or 401k and got a deduction at a period in time when tax rates were likely higher than they are today. That was a good move. Now you have a perfectly predictable 7-year period of time during which to enjoy historically low tax rates and get those dollars repositioned as tax-free, so that by the time tax rates go up for good, you've done all the heavy lifting and you're in the 0% tax bracket. I said, is that what has got you depressed? And she says, oh, well, I hadn't really thought about it that way.
Right.
So the point is, we've got this 7-year period of time during which to enjoy historically low tax rates. The cost of admission to the tax-free bucket is you got to be willing to pay a tax. You're going to have to pay the tax either now or later. Why not do it while taxes are on sale?
Right.
So this message has never been more appropriate or germane than it is right now and during the next 7 years. And that's why we're seeing such a huge groundswell for this movement and this approach.
Yeah, and I can see it's definitely a movement, because it is really something that's it's going to affect all Americans, whether they act on it or not. And fortunately, if you're watching this today and you're an advisor, you have a chance to get this message in front of your clients, change their lives, and grow your business at the same time by helping solve one of the biggest problems they're probably ever going to face in their lifetime, which is a devastating tax bill that they're not ready or prepared for right now, because their current advisors have blinders on.
Yeah, some people say, hey, Dave, why do you let the tax situation wag the dog, right?
Yeah.
To which I respond, if you were sitting on a train track with a massive tax freight train bearing down on you, wouldn't you want to know about it, right? And I think never before, I love talking to Larry Kotlikoff. He's a foremost expert on fiscal gap accounting. He says, look, the true national debt is not 22 trillion. That's the publicly stated debt. If we did our accounting as a country like every other country in the free world, and like 22 Nobel laureates within the borders of our own country say that we should be doing the accounting, we would have to include all of the unfunded obligations for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and interest on the national debt. And when we do all of that, we find that the true national debt is not 22 trillion. Our true debt to GDP ratio is not 106%. Our true national debt is closer to 239 trillion, which means our GDP or debt to GDP ratio is actually over 1,000%, which makes us 4 times worse than the second place country in the world, which is Japan at 250%. So things are much worse than what the politicians are telling us. And it's because of a simple accounting trick that every year we try to get repealed, but they vote down every single year. They do not want us to know what the official national debt is. And that's something that really gets borne out in our movie, and we talk about it with all of our prospects.
Well, and I think the politicians are afraid that they'll be booted from office the minute the truth comes out.
Yeah,
so.
there's no question about it.
And it is out if they watch your documentary.
That's right.
So. Well, I don't know if there's anything else we wanted to cover today. I was thrilled to have you, speak to our YouTube followers and, share some stories about the program. And we're excited to have you back again, and look forward to having a big year next year. And advisors watching, make sure you keep subscribe to our channel here so you can stay up to date on any live streams we do. David will probably be back next time he's in town. So.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the partnership, and I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.